Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. Today we're going to make something that goes by a bunch of different names. It can be called American cheese, American processed cheese, sometimes it's just called processed cheese. It is an invention that goes back to the early 1900s. J.L. Kraft of Kraft Foods was a Canadian who moved to the United States, to Chicago, in order to sell cheese. And while he was there, he was trying to figure out how to make more money selling cheese. And he came up with this idea, which he eventually patented in 1916, of mixing cheese, offcuts of cheese. Like the cheddar cheese that would have ended up in the garbage because it was unsaleable in the regular marketplace. He figured out how to take that, repasteurize it, add sodium phosphate to the mixture to come up with something that melted really nicely and was silky smooth, had a flavor that Americans liked, and he could make a lot of money with. So he patented the process in 1916 and then started his branding campaign calling it American cheese. And everybody knows who Kraft Foods is today. So we're going to do essentially a modern take on his original recipe. So in this pan I've put some butter. And I'm going to add some milk, and we're just going to gently heat this to melt the two together. While that's happening, we're going to shred some cheese. So this is cheddar cheese. This is mild supermarket cheddar cheese. You don't want to use a really expensive aged cheddar cheese. You know, the kind that is almost crumbly and has incredible flavor. It doesn't work well in this scenario. Cheddar cheese, Colby cheese, Wisconsin brick, pepper jack, or Monterey Jack. All of those cheeses work really well. And so the idea of doing this at home really is that you can take your favorite cheese and make something that melts really well for cheeseburgers, mac and cheese, queso, which is what I'm doing today. So we'll shred this cheese. And the shredding doesn't have to be pretty. You just need to break it up. The whole idea initially was to use offcuts and stuff that they couldn't sell. So just kind of breaking it up is all you really need to do. Now, the magic. The magic comes from emulsifying salts. He originally used sodium phosphate, and that is just a salt sodium with a phosphate added. And it is an emulsifier which keeps the milk fat from separating from the milk solids in the cheese, which makes it meltier, which makes it better at melting. Today, I'm going to use sodium citrate and sodium hexametaphosphate. This is the sodium citrate. I'm going to put that in with the milk and the butter. Absolutely have to use this in order to make this work. The sodium hexametaphosphate, I'm using just a tiny little bit. You don't actually need this. It makes it better, but if you don't want to buy a big bag of sodium hexametaphosphate, you don't have to. You can just leave it out. I kind of like having it in there. Let's get it in there. Now, people are going to say, I don't want chemicals in my food. To that, I reply, everything you eat is a chemical. Everything you eat is a chemical. Water is a chemical. Salt is a chemical. These are just two salts. Yes, they're chemicals, but they're something that you eat all the time anyway. You've probably had them 4 or 5 times already today without knowing it. It's just in all of our food, and all food is a chemical. If you don't want to buy a big bag of sodium citrate, you can make it at home. It's really easy. You take baking soda, you mix it with citric acid, you add a little water in order to start the chemical process happening, and then you dry it out and you grind it up, and you've got sodium citrate. It really is that easy. So the idea is we want to get this to a temperature of about 150 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we mix in and melt in the shredded cheese. A little bit at a time. Don't put in too much. Don't overwhelm the mixture. Stir it until it's completely melted. And I know there are people out there right now saying, oh, I'll take a shortcut and I'll buy the pre-shredded cheese at the grocery store. Don't. Pre-shredded cheese has additives. They're not bad for you, but it has additives to keep the cheese from clumping together in the bag so that it stays little shreds. That affects this process and it doesn't work out quite as well. So you need to start with a block of cheese and shred it yourself. Not that it's a big deal when you've got a food processor. Okay, a little bit more. Just don't let it come to a boil. Don't let your heat get that high. And if you feel like it's not mixing in well enough and you want to use a whisk, go ahead and use a whisk. Just help it along. There we go. Comes together really nicely. And a little bit more cheese. Okay, so I've got a really nice mixture of cheese here now. I've got 3 molds set out. Choose your mold wisely. I'm using what was available to me today. I've seen people use yogurt containers, but just definitely want to use something that is plastic, that's flexible, that you can push it out of the mold. You could use little tinfoil containers if you wanted to. At this point, you need to move fairly quickly and pour it into the mold before it starts to re-solidify. Hey, Jules.
Hey, Glen. Hey, friends. What's on, Molly? I'll go on this side. That's really orange and not really orange.
Processed cheese food. American cheese. So I've got 2. I've got this one I'm going to try and slice to put on hamburgers. And this one is a little bit looser. Play with the acids a little bit. And it's a little bit looser for making queso. Or some of the best macaroni and cheese you've ever had. Right?
I guess I'm still astounded by the idea that
you take good cheese,
perfectly decent cheese, and did this. But okay, I get it. It's experimenting. This is what we do. We experiment. Here it is.
So this is the wrong way to cut this. If you're going to cut this, you need to cut it with a wire.
We don't have one.
Which I don't have.
Oddly enough, all the things we have, and that's not one of them.
So, that's not too bad. So there you go. A round of American processed cheese. Look at that. Crazy. So this is going to be great on burgers.
It is, because it's gonna melt just
I'll give you a really big piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like processed cheese. Feels got that feel, that sticky feel.
It's got that rubbery, kind of sticky feel.
It's got that texture.
That's a Kraft cheese slice.
It's been so long since I've had one. I almost feel like it's cheesier.
It is cheesier. I got at the end there. At the end, I got a taste of actual cheese that you don't get with a Kraft cheese slice. Which is the reason you would make this at home, so that it melts well and it has a little bit better flavor. A little bit better. Has a little bit better flavor.
That being said, I went through a period in my life where this was the best cheese ever, and I wouldn't eat any other cheese. It was like, no.
This is the only cheese my dad would ever buy. I would ask, why can't we have real cheese like other people? And he's like, this is real cheese. It drove me nuts.
Yeah, whereas my mom was like, no, you don't want that. And I'm like, no, I want that.
Okay, I'm gonna have
So
another.
I'm sure every family has the same thing. People who love it, hate it.
Yeah.
It's it's not awful. It's just not what I'm used to.
It serves a purpose. It's great for all of the things that you use it for. I
don't
grew up.
think I need to make it myself.
It makes a great grilled cheese because it melts really well and it pulls apart. This is a grilled cheese.
I noticed you've even had your second piece now. So it can't be that awful.
No, it's not. It's not awful at all. It's absolutely fantastic. I really like it. Put a big smile on my face. So you're going to see this show up on cheeseburgers. You're going to see this show up with our chorizo in some queso dip. It's going to be hanging around for a while. So, thanks for stopping by. Stay safe. See you again soon. And we can have another piece.